Okay. I don't know if this like a quick one. Yeah, but I just know that we about to get it too. Well, what's up, guys? It's Super Extension. Your name is Stefan. So we about to do the wansee entertainment.
A few years back, I was a shift manager for a local big box pharmacy and convenience store. It was right across my backyard, and I could probably sprint there in under a minute if I really wanted to. So it really worked out for me. I was in my late 30s. I worked out quite a lot, and while I was fit, I was still a smaller girl. Even though I was married, I would constantly get hit on and asked out. It was pretty flattering, but it always made me feel really awkward. Now, this particular store I worked at was in a really weird part of town. It was on the right side of town to attract the Karens, but close enough to the not-so-good side of town to attract the drug addicts, drunks, and psychopaths. Anyway, let me say that I'm not someone that gets scared easily. I've had someone high on meth crash their car into the side of the store, causing the back of our store to bend inward because we didn't carry pineapple juice. I had a man pick me up and throw me over his shoulder and start walking out the door with me, saying that I'd make a good wife. Yeah, that's one for another time. Anyways, it all started on a Sunday morning. I remember this because I was really busy building end caps and making sell signs. I was working with my favorite coworker, so the day was flying by and I was really bubbly this day. There was a man and his son that came into the store and they made a beeline for me. The man was probably just a little under 6 foot and he was skinny. The man had dreadlocks and a long skinny silver earring dangling from his ear. He also had this really tan trench coat that I found really odd because it was summer. Nonetheless, though, I had then greeted them and asked if they needed some help. The man spoke with a really thick Jamaican accent, and he said that his GPS stopped working, and he wanted to see if we had any. I let out a really small laugh, thinking he was messing with me. No, that would be at Best Buy or something, but we do have a small section of electronics on this wall over here. I indicated the wall to the back of me. Oh, thanks, he said, taking a look, but also keeping his eyes on me. Something about those eyes just really chilled me. He was speaking another language to his son, but I kept going on about my task for the day, and he would call me to help him, asking me questions about chargers and SD cards. I answered them, and then he started telling me how beautiful I was. Really awkwardly, I had thanked him. You must work out, yeah? He asked. Yeah, yoga mostly. I replied while getting more and more uncomfortable now. He made some more comments about my body, telling me how he loved my tattoos, and he was just really being a creep. I tried to stay polite though, and eventually I just walked away to do some more work. I started to avoid him, but he was still staring at me. The man had his phone out, and I kept hearing the shuddering of a camera. I went to the office to tell my other coworker that I thought the guy was taking my picture, and I was just really feeling uncomfortable. He then came out and watched over me. Shortly after my coworker came out, the man and his son then left. By the time the end of my shift came, I forgot about him. A few weeks later, I was up front ringing customers with a different coworker. We were crazy busy that day, but I was the manager on duty. After we got the line down, my coworker then handed me an envelope. What's this? I asked her. I don't know. Some man in dreadlocks told me to give it to you, she said. I took the envelope and I went into my office with it. Inside of the envelope were dozens and dozens of pictures of me. My heart sank. I had no idea that these were taken. Most of them were of me in the store while working, some of me walking home, and some even with me and my daughter. I felt sick. There was also a note with it. It said something along the lines of, "You're so beautiful. I'm in love with you. I'd be a much better husband than what you have now. Please give me a chance." There was more to it, but it's in police evidence now. The guy really stupidly left his name and address. I then called our store manager as well as the police. They took our camera footage, my statement, and the picture.
Dumb people like them is gonna get messed up. You could die for being stupid. I'm just saying.
Here's a letter. They told him that he really needed to stay away from me, or the next time he's getting arrested and he's banned from the store. I was really relieved, but still really bothered by it.
Damn, I always black people.
A few more weeks to about a month then went by. It was another really busy Sunday night. It was just myself as the manager on duty, and we had another coworker as my cashier. We were ringing things up together when I noticed a man staring at me. The man was tall with a medium build. He had dreadlocks and he had the same earring and long trench coat as the other man did. This man was really scary. His eyes were just cold and really dead and angry. It felt like they were staring right through my soul. He didn't have anything to purchase, just stood and stared. I tried to smile politely at him, then another wave of customers came. I got lost in helping everyone, but didn't see the man anymore.
Look at you.
Even when things calmed down, I still didn't see him. I decided to go start facing the back of the store, and I told my coworker to call me if she needed me. As I was back there, I heard that Jamaican accent and all over.
Wow. See, I would have literally took that. I would have just put that. I would have just set that trash down on the floor, and And if he tried to chase me, I would have run around through the store, and I would have just went in and grabbed a shotgun. Grab something.
I looked up at the mirror to see that same scary man on the phone.
Yeah, she's here. No, it's just one other girl here with her. I can grab her when she leaves. No problem.
I was absolutely horrified. He didn't see me, so I slowly made my way up to the front. I briefly tell my coworker what's going on and then called the police and store manager. The cops took him away. A few days later, a detective came to speak to me. The two men were brothers. They were abducting women and actually using them for human trafficking. He told me I was really lucky.
Jesus.
I later found out that they had apparently found a woman beaten to death in their apartment. They've both since gone to prison. This still gives me really bad nightmares. What happened to that woman could have easily been me. But thank God it wasn't.
I want to hear that. No copyright, bruh. No. They need to stop putting their music. That's a copyright. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm just saying. No copyright, no, I don't want to listen to it, and what the hell is me?
The events of the story take place over the course of a few nights. Before we get there, I need to provide a little bit of backstory. My husband and I had just moved to New York City, like right in the heart of the city. The apartment was breathtaking. I kept thinking that it was a loft apartment you would see in a movie or a television show. My husband was fortunate enough to land a well-paying job that allowed us to afford this beautiful apartment. My favorite part was the view. At night, you could see all the lights from the city out of the windows. It didn't take long for my husband to make some friends at work.
It's scary.
He's a very social person, and being in sales for a decade makes it easy for him to strike up a conversation with anyone. Almost a year into living in the city, we had our weekend crew that we would hang out with routinely. We would have dinner, play games, or just have some drinks with Becky and Jim, as well as another couple, Jason and Liz. But my husband's best friend from the city was a man named Eric. Eric did not have a significant other, but never came alone. He always had a friend that he would bring. He would always joke with me and my husband. Don't worry, guys. You never have to worry about me being the third wheel.
I ain't trying to sound nasty, but that do sound gay for him to talk about my husband. That sound like that sound.
This turned into a reoccurring joke, and Eric was almost referred to as this third wheel. One night after one of our little get-togethers, my husband and I were getting ready for bed. We talked for a while, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep mid-sentence. I woke up at some point in the middle of the night. I didn't look at the time, but it was still dark, so before 5 a.m. if I had to guess. I heard a noise, and I know that it's what woke me up. I just laid in bed, feeling a bit uneasy, and looked up in the dark room. I thought I could see a figure of some kind in the corner of the room. The more I tried to focus, the more and harder it was to see. I felt as if though I could almost hear something like breathing or wheezing. After a few minutes, I felt much better and chalked it up to some kind of vivid nightmare and rolled over back to bed. I was too scared in the moment to look and didn't want to wake my husband up for something that was probably just a giant overreaction. The next night came and same story.
He crazy.
We went to bed at around 11. I didn't tell my husband about the events of the night before. Again, I was awoken in the middle of the night. This time I looked at the time and it was shortly after 4 a.m. I could for sure hear breathing this time. I looked around the room from the bed, but this time I couldn't see any figures like I did the night before. I could just hear the breathing and it felt so close. I tried waking up my husband, but he was out cold. I didn't try awfully hard because he had to wake up in about an hour for work. I didn't sleep well the rest of the night, and I woke up with him in the morning and did not want to stay in the bedroom alone when he left. I moved to the living room and slept on the couch for a couple of hours. The day was miserable. I couldn't shake the weird feeling for the entire day. Around 2 in the afternoon, I took a shower. When I turned the shower off and was drying my hair in the bathroom, I heard something from outside the bathroom door. I froze in paranoia in the bathroom and listened with my ear to the door, but heard nothing. Finally, I worked up the courage to leave the bathroom and felt a minor moment of relief when I was in fact still alone in the apartment. Shortly after 5, my husband came home from work and I told him about the events of the last 2 nights. At first he laughed as if though I were telling him a joke. Once he realized how freaked out I was, he then began to try and rationalize what I could have been seeing and hearing. I have to say, I was insulted because he even suggested that maybe I had too much to...
Stupid people like him. I hope he die. Because it's like every time when somebody tell you a story, they'll laugh, but if they get real serious, they'll be like, oh, don't be shy, or then don't be so scared. It's probably just this, and it's probably a squirrel or acorn just dropped on the floor, or it's a cat just meow all day, like. You know, that's like saying stepping like a big man doing this. You're gonna be like, that's a person, because ain't no way.
Drink, but that was not the case whatsoever. He then said in a reassuring voice, listen, if it happens again, just wake me up, and I'll search the room. This actually did give me some relief that I was able to talk to him about it. However, I was still anxious that I would hear or see something again. That night came quickly, and I was so tired from the previous night that I fell asleep even though I was practically petrified to go to bed. Again, right around 3:30 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of breathing, and it was undeniable at this point. I looked around the room and saw nothing, just like the previous night. I woke up my husband and told him to listen. He said he could hear the breathing too. He sprang from the bed and turned on the light. There was thankfully nobody standing in the room. That brief moment of solace ended quickly when that nightmare came true. My husband walked over to the walk-in closet, and emerging from under the bed was our friend Eric. He sprinted towards my husband, who was now in the closet, and tackled him. I screamed in panic, absolutely freaking out. I jumped from the bed and tried to make a run for the door. My plan was to just yell in the hallway until someone hopefully heard me. I didn't even make it to the door before Eric had caught me. I screamed as loud as I could. Thankfully, in that quick moment, my husband sprang out and tackled Eric in return. I ran to the cell phone and called the police. My husband is a fairly large man and was able to get Eric to the ground and keep him there and subdue him until the cops showed up. To the police's credit, they showed up incredibly fast. My husband only had minor scrapes and bruises, but had a pretty big knot on his head. When the cops were arresting Eric, we could hear him saying, "I didn't want to be the third wheel anymore. I didn't want to be the third wheel anymore." What's even more disturbing is that he told the police he was inside of our apartment for a couple of days. He had somehow stolen my husband's key and made a copy of it. He was apparently breaking into the apartment for weeks, but had been staying during the night for the last few days. I'm not sure why he didn't try anything while we were sleeping or any of the times myself or my husband were alone in the apartment. It still freaks me out thinking that this man was inches from where I slept. We're now back in my hometown and not living in the city anymore.
That's so crazy.
The terror you feel being trapped that high up in the sky with nowhere to run has made me extremely claustrophobic. You never know what people are capable of, even people you consider close friends. The police did inform us that Eric stated he didn't intend to hurt either one of us that night, but the look in his eyes told us a completely different story.
Jesus, this dude trying to kill us? I'm sick and tired of y'all music, bro. I don't care. That's a copyright. That's just a copyright. I'm just saying. But I like these ones. These songs a little bit. That's what I'm talking about. But nah.
This happened to me about 6 years ago. I'm now 26, and I'm also married with 2 awesome kids.
Alright, so I'm gonna have my account.
For some context, I'm a guy. This is what happened to me. I tried so many times to leave my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Sarah. Whenever I would tell her that I wanted to see other people or that I should move out so that we have room to breathe, she would always go crazy and threaten to kill or cut herself or even drive her car off of a bridge. Mind you, where I live, there really isn't any bridges.
She's crazy.
Anyways, one day I run into my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Rachel, at the mall. We ended on good terms, so we had actually talked like nothing happened. I had told Rachel about my situation with Sarah and how I really wasn't happy with her, and that I was really scared that she was going to do something to harm herself. Rachel told me if I was really worried that much, that I should let one of her family members know. So one day during work, I called her on my lunch and told her we should have dinner and talk. I also ran to our place and got all of my things and my dogs and moved everything back into my parents' house. I know, that's really messed up. But you have to understand that she was crazy, like really crazy. When we went to dinner, I told her in public that we should break up because I just wasn't happy anymore. And to be honest, I really hadn't been for a while. I mean, we had been together for about 3 years, and I just wasn't happy. I had actually told her a few months after we started dating that I thought we were better off as friends. Anyways, so we break up, and I go back to my parents' house, which they really weren't happy about because they knew how she was, and they were really scared that she was going to do something to the house, or maybe even worse.
Smart.
They wanted me to go to a family member's house instead, but I mean, really. Who would actually take 2 big dogs and me on top of this giant load of drama? Later that night, when me and my dad are talking in the living room, all of a sudden we hear the sound of my truck alarm then go off and the sound of glass break. My heart sank. I just knew it was Sarah. I go outside, calmly trying to talk to her like an adult, and she just starts hitting me and spitting in my face, telling me I'm a piece of crap and all these other crazy things. I kid you not, I didn't touch her not one time, and I never raised my voice. I tried to get her to relax and at the same time telling my dad everything was okay. I can handle this, just go back inside. Finally, after about a half hour of just getting hit and yelled at, she eventually leaves, peeling out of my parents' neighborhood. Let's fast forward a few days later. I end up getting a visit from the cops asking where I was the night of this night, and blah blah blah. You know how it goes. I tell them, but they don't believe me. They say that they want to take me downtown for some questions. Being the decent person that I am, I decide to go willingly. And well, what do you know? It turns out that she had filed a report on me saying that I beat her and also held her at gunpoint to get all of her money from her safe, and that I also wanted the PIN numbers to her card. For a while, I didn't even say anything because I was just so shocked at this point. I then tell the cops, "Look at me. I'm the one that has cuts and bruises here. She did that. I didn't do anything to her." Their response, "Sir, she's a lady. We have to hear her side on this, and we're going to need to take some DNA samples from you." Well, I give them what they need, and long story short, I'm thrown in jail waiting for a hearing. About 2 weeks go by and the results came back. And you guessed it, totally negative. Also, I forgot to mention this, but me and Rachel ended up getting back together, but the harassment never stopped. Sarah made it impossible for me to move on with my life.
Yeah.
For almost a year, I would get constant visits from cops asking why I was stalking her. Sarah even hired a private investigator to follow me and Rachel around. Every time I got a visit from a cop, I always had something backing me up on where I was whenever Sarah claimed I was stalking her. She had 4 restraining orders filed against me when I never even had anything to do with her. Finally, the judge was sick of it. I guess he had finally seen just how crazy she was, because he didn't issue any more restraining orders after that. Me and Rachel almost didn't make it through this. Sarah made my life hell, but I'm really glad I ended things with her. So Sarah, wherever you are, I really hope you find the help you need. And I pray and hope no other man ever has to go through this.
He was smart for that. The woman under the tree.
I'm from India, and this is a true story of mine. I once lived in a small town on the Ganges riverbanks. In my adolescent age, one of my favorite hobbies was to roam in the whole village with my bicycle all day long. I was neither an imaginative type nor chicken boy. However, this incident completely changed my whole life. In my country, we consider the Ganges to a sacred river in Hinduism, and the water of River Ganges is frequently used in various rituals. My father was a priest in our village. One night he ordered me to bring some Ganges river water from our temple. As the river was nearby my house, I thought of going to the river to draw and bring water from the river itself instead of heading to the temple. While coming home with a full bucket of water in my hand, I suddenly noticed a woman leaning on a tree. The outside was almost getting dark, and she was wearing a hood on her head, so I couldn't see her face. Yet she seemed to be normal at first. Then she called me and requested to remove her hood. So I took one step forward. I walked toward her closer and closer. And as soon as I reached my hand to her hood...
Look at that. Stupid people like him. She can literally grab his hand, break it, or she can just do this and stab him in his... Look, see? He can be for being stupid.
I suddenly noticed both her hands were nailed down to the tree. Being freaked out, I ran back to my house, letting a scream out. And my heart was throbbing frantically at that very moment. When I reached home, I told my dad about the lady I saw. And what he said to me eventually made my heart sink. Long ago, there was a woman in our town who was called a witch because of drinking the blood of young children. She got arrested by village people and ended up nailing on that very tree as a punishment. And from that day after she died, many people were found dead under that tree with marks of 2 sharp canine teeth, as though someone had sucked the blood from their bodies. Even now, I grew up as an adult. I get goosebumps just thinking about the woman I saw that night.
What y'all supposed to... No, I ain't really trying to hear all that music. I ain't trying to hear that music. It's trash. It's trash. That is freaking dumb. Why would they nail her? Cause she could still have a hole in her hand. She could just like pull it out until like... Why? See, people be acting on too much. I hate these people.
For the past few weeks, me and my friend have been using the app Randonautica. One night recently, me and Daniel went to the movies. When the movie ended, It wasn't that late, so we came up with the idea to grab some food and use the app. We searched for creepy locations, and the app gave us a destination to drive to. The app was taking us to a quiet part of the highway. We had to pull over by an abandoned rest stop and walk the rest of the way because there were no roads heading into where the app was telling us to go. Me and Daniel walked towards the woods and climbed over an old rusty fence. We carried on walking into the woods with about 5
You could be stupid for dying. You could be dying
minutes left until we reached our destination.
I'll say this.
We came prepared and brought with us flashlights as we've been doing this often. We finally arrived to the location where the app was leading us to, and it led us to a cabin. It was hard to tell if someone was using this or it was left abandoned. Daniel asked if we should go inside and look around. I said, I don't know. It could be someone's property. Daniel eventually convinced me to check it out. There weren't any cars around or lights in the cabin, and we were kind of in the middle of nowhere, so I agreed. We entered the cabin by going through the front door, as it was unlocked. Just like the outside, the cabin looked abandoned, but also like someone had been living there. The downstairs was relatively normal. We went upstairs and there was only one room. We assumed it to be a bedroom, and after opening the door, we were right. The room was not normal, however. Someone had nailed pages from what I assumed was a Bible all over the walls and ceiling. Scattered on the floor were more Bibles and Bible pages that had been ripped out. If this wasn't creepy enough, there was a bag sitting on the bed. I looked inside and there was a small Bible, a box of matches, a large rusty pair of scissors, and a hammer that had blood on it. I showed Daniel what was in the bag.
That's why I said.
He said we should probably leave. As we went downstairs, Daniel stopped me and told me to be quiet. After listening out carefully, we heard men talking in the near distance. Then I noticed through the window about 6 or 7 flashlights in the woods approaching the cabin. We quietly left through the front door again and started jogging back to where the car was. We hopped the fence and drove back home. That night, Daniel texted me with a picture of a news article that he had read that was posted 2 days ago. Man brutally murdered in his home. He was found with Bible pages stuffed in his hand. I keep thinking that those men by the cabin we found were responsible for that man's murder. And if we had been caught in their cabin, me and Daniel might have suffered the same similar fate.
Oh, Horror Story Party, I watched them too. Because I was about to get ready to end it, but it was just like, nah. So, Horror Story Party. Yep. Alright, so, okay, this one. 2 True Computer. 2. Oh, it's
I live alone in a small house in Canada. And this all happened about 6.5 years ago. I opened my front door one morning to go and get some groceries and found the strangest thing waiting for me outside. Lying on my doorstep was a small USB flash drive. Almost stepped on to go and get some groceries and
You know what I'm thinking about that camera facing that house. Why that look like Family Guy's neighborhood?
found the strangest thing waiting for me outside. Lying on my doorstep was a small USB flash drive. Almost stepped on the damn thing. Who'd put that there, I thought. It was just a generic USB stick. No label or anything. No way to know who it came from. Well, I did what anyone else would do. Took it inside and plugged it into my PC. The device was full of pictures. In fact, nothing but pictures. Dozens of them. I opened the first one and clicked through them in order. The first few were just shots from around town. general places that I recognized. The fourth image was taken on our town's busiest street. In the image, the street was full of people, but there was somebody in it that caught my attention immediately. Me. The image showed me in amongst the crowd, just minding my own business.
Okay, what's the other people?
Well, this was a small town. Was it just a coincidence that I was in the picture? The fifth image had been taken on the same day. Again, it was taken in our town. Again, I was in it. The photographer was closer to me this time. Whoever had taken these pictures of me, I hadn't noticed them at the time. Next came several more pictures of me in various locations around town. Then, something more chilling. A photo of a house. My house. It was nighttime in the image, and the living room light was on. I clicked through to the next picture. It was another image of my house, this time taken even closer. Through the living room window, you could see me sitting on the couch, watching television. I could tell from the clothes I was wearing that it had been taken the night before.
That's why I closed your window.
I had no idea that somebody had been outside watching me.
For being stupid.
I kept clicking through the images on the drive. Photo after photo of me inside my house, taken from just outside my window. Because it was so light inside and so dark outside, I was totally unable to see that somebody was watching me from out there. I couldn't see them, but they could see me, clear as day. Didn't even need to use the flash on their camera. After 20 or so photos of just me inside my house, there came a real curveball.
Hey, I should make that movie.
An image taken from inside my hallway.
That should be my
The man or woman or whoever was taking these pictures of me had been inside my house the night before. There were photos of my living room, now lightless and empty, obviously taken after I'd gone to sleep. Photos of my kitchen, of my dining area, my stairwell, and several taken as the unknown person ascended my stairs towards where I was sleeping.
He's taking it right now.
My brain started to run wild with thoughts about who had been following me. Had I wronged someone in the past? Said the wrong thing to the wrong guy? Was this just some weirdo who decided to target me? Were they armed when they came to pay me a visit? Whatever the case, somebody had come inside my house at night and taken pictures of all of the rooms, including my bedroom. The second to last photo was of me, fast asleep in my bed, totally oblivious to the person in my home.
Oh, God.
The final image was just of a handwritten note, framed in close-up. The message on it simply read, "Never hide a spare key under your doormat." I've since moved house.
See, yeah, exactly. It's him. It's him.
Real Steel. Find yours.
You could die for being stupid. You could die for being stupid. You could die for being stupid. You could die for being
This all took place a couple of years back. I was walking my dog through a local park late one night and decided to take a little break on one of the park benches.
That's
I sat down and immediately felt something under my butt. It was a USB flash drive, which had either been forgotten or abandoned by somebody. I waited around for maybe 5 minutes to see if somebody would come back and claim it. Nobody did, so I just put it in my pocket. Like I said, it was late at night, so the park's lost and found area was closed. I planned to head back there in the morning before work and hand it over. Maybe the owner might come by and collect it. Probably a student who had some work assignments on it, I figured. As I sat at home, my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to take a quick look at what was on the USB. I plugged it into my computer and checked its contents. Strange. There was only one file on the USB. An Excel file of all things. Some poor schmuck must have lost this thing after its first use. The file was simply titled Little Black Book. Needless to say, I opened the document. It was just a large collection of names, addresses, and numbers. Mr. X, Tudor Hill Drive, 52,750. Mrs. Y, Springfield Avenue, 47,300. Dr. Z, Deacon Street, 52,200, etc.
Okay, nobody don't care about all that.
The list ran on and on. Probably 40 or 50 names and addresses in total. At least 25 of them had been highlighted in red. The rest were just in black. Strange. Why would someone go through the trouble of making an Excel file with all this information in it, then saving it onto an empty USB as the only file?
And you
Were these someone's clients? Someone's friends? I had no idea. And what were the numbers next to each name supposed to mean? They were all in the same ballpark, between 30 and 60,000. And I decided to dig a little deeper and look up a few of the names and addresses, just to sate my curiosity, you know.
Wait a minute. Okay, now...
No. I started about what the numbers... Mr. X was indeed a real person, and the address listed was indeed his. But he had passed away a few years back under mysterious circumstances. The same was true of Mrs. Y, Dr. Z, and all the other names listed in red on the document. They'd all perished either under mysterious circumstances or through some sort of unfortunate accident. Starting to worry that this USB might have belonged to someone in the cleanup business, so to speak, I began to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figured I knew what the numbers next to each name meant. They were the amount that the people had been contracted for.
See?
This was a hit list. I immediately called up the authorities and handed the USB over to them, telling them where I'd found it and what the information pertained to. They took it from there, and I haven't heard anything else about it since. Had somebody left the USB on the bench intentionally for somebody else to come and collect? Or had it simply fallen out of the owner's pocket? I still don't know. Probably never will. But I'm glad that nobody came by that park bench during those 5 minutes I waited around. It was dark. The park was completely empty. And the owner or collector really wouldn't have wanted that USB to fall into somebody else's hands. Who knows what they might have done.
My merch is, you can die for being stupid. That's what my merch is. But anyways, if y'all want to see more of me doing these challenges, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. I'm gonna watch that Corey S. Kenshin video, but not for now, but probably tomorrow, cause tomorrow it's gonna be a good day for me to make so many YouTube videos as I can, okay? Cause it's gonna be Sunday, but it's Saturday though. But make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Comment down below what's the scariest video. And I love y'all. See y'all later. Peace. You could die for being stupid.